speaking their mind.
All right, welcome back to At the Round Table with MAMLEO. Our sponsor is in from the Money Store, Cora Holbrook. I like the Money Store. I was growing up, there always told me there was the money don't grow on trees. Now I find out there's a money store.
But brains grow on trees, in Braintree.
Oh, Braintree. I like that.
I'm just kidding.
No, I like that. I like that humor.
Hey, that is funny.
Yeah. Welcome back to At the Round Table with MAMLEO. I'm your host, Larry Olsen. In the studio with my brother from the Rhodes Scholar, we call him now. Dr. Rhodes is in with us. Good morning, my brother. How are you?
Good morning. How are you?
Good. And Dr. Bradley is off today, a well-deserved day off. The doctor is out today. So if you need your checkup from the neck up, he'll be back in next weekend. But we are glad to have in studio with us this morning. And folks, again, the call-in number is 617-282-0685. 617-282-0685. It's been a minute since they've been in, but they've been out on the road putting these workshops on. I know I've attended several with Cora Holbrook. She's with the Money Store, and her number is 508-443-6915. And Samuel Reimer from KR Boston.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Is that Keller?
KR Boston.
KR Boston Real Estate. And his phone number is 617-775-3074. These are not strangers to the broadcast. They've been in here numerous times. And, there's been a lot of changes, a lot of updates in how real estate operates, how, the prices in Boston in particular, the average price for a home in Boston has approached $900,000. $900,000 they're saying is the average price. So you're probably paying a lot of instances more for rent than for home ownership. So they're going to give you some tips on how you can get. They're offering some free workshops. Like I said, I've attended several of them, and I can tell you they're very informative. And you couldn't have two better in the business this morning here to help you. So if you want to give them a call, if you have any questions as it relates to real estate, as well as the 1031 exchange,
yes,
which they're going to explain because even I'm not familiar with that, and also update us as well on what this new law about real estates and now the percentages that you have.
Sure.
So we're going to talk about that. But again, good morning.
Good morning.
Sam.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So you folks, tell where we want to dive right in here. Let's talk a little about your upcoming workshop that you have, and then we'll get into a lot of logistics.
Great. So what we're looking to do is, we want to educate the community as much as we can on the home buying process. It's such a great opportunity, and the city's giving away so much, have so much support for home buyers. So it's just a lot of times just the education. A lot of people, they want to know what's the difference between renting versus buying, and is it a good time to buy? And I think just there's so much information out there. It's just information overload. And so what Cora and I, we get together and we bring in experts in the industry, and we try to break it down so it's very simple and understandable for people to understand the pathway to home ownership. So we have our next seminar coming up next
Saturday.
Yeah, next Saturday.
That's
12:32.
Saturday, May 11th, 2024, from 12:30 to 3 p.m. at the Adams Street Public Library at 690 Adams Street. Again, that's from 12:30 to 3 p.m. The Boston Public Library at 690 Adams Street. And you can register. There's a QR code on here, but it'll be on our website.
Right.
But events.blackbirdsrsvp, that's one word, events.blackbirds/homebuyer/ed/MAY May. So
right. And the easiest way to register is probably just to give me a call. 617-775-3074 will get you registered. And we put these on a consistent basis. We try to do 1 to 2 a month. And really in the underserved communities, really it's like Dorchester, Mattapan, Brockton. We're there, and we're expanding. We're planning to do one in Malden soon. So we're looking to again educate the community because everything starts there.
So like I said, these workshops have been extremely informative. So I guess the question a lot of people are asking, what they're seeing these home prices are, and you just alluded to that there is a lot of assistance. A lot of people don't understand how to navigate through that to be able to apply for the assistance. What's the first step? I know we've gone over this, but for a newer listener, what's the first step for someone that is interested in thinking of buying rather than renting, or they've never rented before but now they want to go into the home buyer show, where should they start? I mean, I think they should start at your workshop, but if they're not listening, or if they're
not able to go to the workshop, like what would you tell them in the workshop?
The first step really is to get pre-approved for and speak to a loan officer and to find out what they can qualify for. And also during
so
the
when you say what they can qualify, just for clarification, I know what you mean, but the average person, when you say what they can qualify, meaning
for financing assistance,
right? How much
they can borrow.
Okay.
Yes.
And
yes.
What are some of the factors in qualifying for? Because there's a pre-approval, which people think sometimes is to get pre-approved that they're all set. That's just preliminary.
Yes.
And then there's the process of doing the background.
Yes.
What's the process for getting a preliminary approval?
Yes. The first thing that we really looked into as a lender is their credit.
Oh,
how is their credit?
Okay.
And it's not just the credit score, but it's also what's in the credit report. How much they owe, what do they owe, do they have collection, do they have late payments. Those are things that we look at because these factors impact the decision on the loan.
So, for instance, if you have a lot of, even if you're paying, but if you have a lot of open credit cards or open credit, that affects your score.
Well,
that affect your score?
Yeah, it does affect the score, but also the proportion of what is the balance versus the limit.
Mm-hmm.
The higher the balance versus the limit, the lower the credit score will be.
Mm-hmm. And
of course, what they're paying for their debts also impact the loan because that goes into the debt ratio.
Yeah.
So we look into that as well.
So it sounds like to me like it's good to have the credit card, but to make sure that you don't owe any money on the credit cards.
Well, at least don't go over 50%.
Mm-hmm.
Keep it under 50%. The ideal percentage would be 30%. So
and so to that regard as well, there is a formula, right, that your debt credit ratio.
Yes.
So like what's that percentage of your debt?
Well, ideally they should not go more than the total debt ratio.
Mm-hmm.
So they should not go more than 45% of the total income, and the 45% will already include what they're going to pay for the mortgage. So that's why it's very important that they go to a loan officer and ask for a consultation so that they will understand how much they will qualify for, what do they have to pay every month, and then plus we add up all what they're paying on their credit cards, if they have installment loans like student loans and car loans. So just make a note that on student loans, a lot of students who graduated and home buyers now, they think that if their loan is deferred, the student loan is deferred, we don't count that. No, if their student loan is still deferred, there is a formula that Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and FHA loans ask us to use to calculate what the potential monthly payment will be. So student loans will always be included.
Oh, okay. So Cora's your money person, and she's the one that you would contact if you're definitely looking to find out if you get pre-approved and financing. And then we have Sam here. Sam is the real estate guy. So Sam, we just saw recently where the average home on Boston is $900,000. So that means that it's mushrooms out. So I'm sure it's not much different in the surrounding towns in the Boston area. What is your recommendation to people? I know they come to your class and they have this expectation. I go through this workshop, and now I'm ready to buy. Right. What's the first step? And like I said, Cora says, okay, this is the amount that you can afford to purchase. Is this price range pricing people out, even though after they attend these workshops? What's the realistic that they're going to be able to buy?
So realistically, the number one thing is when you like get qualified is to understand what your budget is. It really is important that you don't exceed what your budget is. Like, everyone has different lifestyles and certain quality of lives that they're used to, but understand what you're comfortable with paying, and then you have to have some flexibility because again, $900,000, the income range for someone to afford a loan for $900,000 is what it is. So you might want to be more flexible on where that is. Also, the size of the home. So if you're looking for a single family, you might want to look at the townhouse. If you're looking at a townhouse, you might be open to a condo. So a difference between a townhouse condo, just for those who don't know. So a condo, may say think of like a multi-unit building. A townhouse is usually like sheer 1 to 2 walls, versus a single family, which is obviously on its own lot. So there is like cost savings on that way. I highly recommend. I always ask my clients really consider their needs and actually think about going into a multi first, actually, because the second, third, or the second or third unit actually helps pay for the mortgage. So and they could stay in a smaller part of the home. Yeah.
But in Boston, isn't that more increasingly hard to actually purchase a 3-decker, a 3-family?
Like
Because
they've been condoed out.
They've been turning them into condos. Is that
right?
that
Right. No, it's not easy to do.
Yeah, but see, in terms of qualifying to buy a 3-family and a 2-family, what most people are doing are they piggyback with each other. Plus, remember, we can use the rental income of the other unit but they must be occupying the property.
Yeah.
And then rent out, if it's a 2-family, rent out 1 unit. If it's a 3-family, rent out the 2 units. And one thing that I'm seeing some people are doing just for the first time to purchase a home, if they can afford it income wise, it's best to buy a multifamily, right? But if they cannot afford yet, so they can start with a condo. There's a lot of affordable houses in Boston. They just have to go to the know where they are. And in Mattapan, we have the Olmsted Green, and there's many contractors involved in that project. But they have about 80 units that are dedicated to affordable housing. But some of them have already been sold up to February, but there's still a lot more that's coming up, and maybe they should look into that, and that's in Mattapan. So all they need to do is just go to the Boston, and Google it in Boston, and they'll find, and there are some resales too. Right. So that's the first, a good way to start owning a home, and then later on, if they graduate from the affordable housing, they can sell it, and then they build up equity, and then they can purchase their, maybe a multi.
Right. So affordability is very important, and getting into the game. Right. You have to get in the game so you can start that snowball effect. Overall, in Massachusetts, real estate's up over 10%.
Wow.
And it's been doing that pretty much at least for the last 4 years.
Wow.
So. And that's all driven by inflation, and the government's definitely printing money pretty quickly. So you want to just get on the right side of it and ride that wave. And so my recommendation is get in where you fit in.
Okay. You're listening to At the Round Table with MAMLEO. In studio with us, we're happy to have him back in studio. Cora Holbrook from The Money Store and Samuel Reimer from KR Boston Real Estate. Folks, like I said, 2 of the best in the business, not the best in the business, in my opinion. I may be a little biased, but I'm telling you, they know their actions really see that. Like I said, if you have any questions as it relates to real estate, mortgage, now's the time to give them a call, because you're right. I mean, things are fluctuating, and there's a lot of changes, and they're also, because ironically, you guys have been coming on this broadcast for quite some time, and what you just said really resonated with me, Sam, when you said that it has consistently gone up 10%. If folks had got into this when you guys first started and bought that home at $400,000, right, it would probably almost double realistically in value, right? Better than the stock market.
Yes.
Real estate is
right. And the appreciation is just one thing. I mean, we're not even talking about depreciation values, all the things.
A lot of benefits of
cash flow.
Right.
There's a lot of
home ownership,
home ownership, and you lock it in your payment. I have we manage properties as well, and it's kind of hard. I got to tell the tenants, hey, your rent's going up $300 this year.
Yeah.
And when you have your own property, you lock that in.
No, you're right, because I have an elderly aunt who is, the people bought the house. She was paying $1,200 a month. People that there before, they were comfortable with that because they didn't have a mortgage on it. The new people can't accept $1,200 a month. It doesn't even make a dent in what it costs them. Like I said, whenever you guys are here, the phones are ringing off. I'm going to bring the caller. Good morning. Welcome to the round table.
Good morning.
Good morning. You have a question?
This is more of a political question, but it still ties into real estate. How come these elected officials like to brag about being homeowners, but yet I, as an individual, can't get one because they're not teaching me how to fish? Instead, they just give me fishes. So, in other words, they're not showing me how they became homeowners. All they're just doing is giving me the same old wet drinker.
So call it. Well, one of the solutions to your problem is to attend this workshop at next Saturday
at the Adams Library,
12:30 to 3 at the Boston Public Library, 680 Adams Street. Cora Holbrook, along with other experts in this field, that's where you start. I tell folks, you always make a mistake if you're depending on the government to help you out of your problems. Usually, they are the problem, right? So I feel like you want to go to folks like this to assist you who are knowledgeable in it. I mean, I don't think there are any elected officials. Most of them, a lot of times they'll boast about, like, some of the, I'm a lawyer, but you're a city councilor, so you're not practicing. So really, you're just a city council with a law license.
So actually, Larry, this is the third workshop that we've held in Boston.
Sure.
So, and we will continue to do this and reach out to the residents.
Right. So again, it's a perfect segue because we have a caller on the line who is trying to buy a home. What advice would you guys give to him, who sounds like he's frustrated because but as you alluded to as well, Sam, you said there is some assistance for people like him who are trying to buy. What is that?
Right. So Corey, you want to go over that?
Yes. So there is a down payment assistance available. So in addition to having looking for an affordable housing, which is really the price of affordable housing units, Larry, and at one townhouse that I saw in Mattapan is $285,000. That's if your income is below the 80% AMI, the area median income, which is about $90,000. So if your income is below that,
how large of a household? Like, is it, because usually there's
that's based on 80,000 is about 78,000 is on a one person household, and 96,000 is on a 3-person household. So if your income falls below the 80% median income, then you can buy it at $285. But it increases also because, don't forget, this is at affordable housing, so they have the right to set the price.
So, but that is that the set asides that there's a limited amount of supply at that price?
Yes.
Because if this caller is looking at something that's in the regular market that's near the $900,000, is that really going to help him with that assistance?
Like what Sam said, don't look into go where you will fit. So the affordable housing units, if you are not,
so he should move to Alaska.
No, right here in Boston, the affordable housing units are available.
Okay.
So you just have to be very sharp in looking, when it comes out in the market.
But that's a great question. How do we find out when those are online? Because a lot of times we see this construction, a lot of people just feel like it's just not. It's way beyond what I can afford.
They can go to. One example is the Maloney properties. They have tons of, not really tons, but a lot of times every month I see like 4 to 5 units available. Of course, this is by lottery, but if you don't try, you just have to keep trying. If you don't try, no pain, no gain. And then the down payment assistance, Larry, the down payment assistance is at least $30,000.
Okay.
And then that's for mass housing. That's the state program. But there's also a program by FHA, which is called Arrive, where you can get 3.5% down payment. The full down payment needed to purchase a home, to get a loan, is free, 0%, no monthly payment, and it's forgivable after 3 years. They just have to be able to pay every month for 3 years, and after that it's forgivable. Then there's also 5%.
Right. So that's where I think the problem comes in for a lot of people, right? Is that maybe they just squeak over the finish line to be able to get in. And now the reality of maintaining the cost of a home, the gas, the electricity, the taxes go up, right? There's a maintenance. So you're looking at on a $900,000 home, even if you don't qualify for any of these programs, you're somewhere right around, is it 10 to 15% or 20% that you have to put down?
No, well, 3.5% is FHA. I mean, if you're a first-time home buyer, you're at
conventional is 3%.
Right.
Yeah, so 3.5. So Cora's the money person, but it's very she's a money store. So it is very affordable. I think that's another thing when I speak to clients who are interested and they're just kind of looking is sometimes they go, well, I don't have 10%, I don't have 20%. Well, it is a lot easier to get in than that, and like I said, as long as it's within your budget, then you consider it. But there's plenty of great markets. I know a lot of people now they have flexible work office hours, so they can, if they work from home. Being in the city may not be the only place. Maybe you want to look at Randolph or Framingham or even Brockton's still a good, good
Avon.
market. Avon. There are secondary markets that's outside of Boston proper. That's still a good commute into the city when you have to come into the office.
But those towns that you just mentioned, like Boston, it directly comes from the city. There are some state programs, but there are probably more opportunities for assistance in Boston than you would in Avon. Are there any programs like that mirror what Boston is doing?
Yes,
for assistance.
There
Yes.
are stuff.
Each town has.
Each town has their own, and there are statewide programs as well as.
The mass housing is statewide.
Okay.
Right.
Arrive of FHA is statewide. So there's really
So-
plenty of
So,
opportunities.
Ditko, are you exploring buying, or are you looking? Because I think if you're looking and you're serious about looking, I think you really need to contact Cora and Sam, because, like I said, I think a lot of times it's the unknown, and there's a lot of myths, or we're getting misinformation from folks on what we need to do. So, what is your prospects? Are you just still exploring it, or are you ready to buy?
I'm still exploring.
Okay, so now that's a great point as well, because I think also you still probably need to contact so they can get you in position so you
Right.
move to the next step.
Yeah.
What's the next step for him?
I was just about to say that you want to get a good team around you. That's the big thing.
That's why you guys we are the best team in town.
Who do you have working with you? So again, those opportunities that Cora was speaking about, those listings are stuff that we can send out to you, so you get them when they come out. Some of the stuff is just you have to go to the website and visit. Some of it is kind of like grunt work, but especially for the affordable housing, and it is very competitive, but it is a competitive. It's worth the competition. So it's worth fighting for, because once you're on that property ladder, you start to see appreciation. It's all again the tax benefits of all this. So again, what you want to do is find out what that affordability is for you. You do calculate again. So the same thing. You're going to have electric bill when you own a house. You have an electric bill when you're renting.
Right.
All right. The gas bill, maybe some of that stuff is included. But again, that's all stuff you calculate. You make sure that it's affordable for you. And if that means you need to go out an hour, like I had a client, they wanted Everett. But eventually, you know what? They had to get their first home. They had to go. They went to Fitchburg, and so. But they had flexibility at work to be able to do that. So, just want to get in where you fit in, and then over time, one of my good friends, he started buying investment property in Springfield because it was affordable, and then eventually he doubled up enough that he sold all his inventory in that area in Springfield, and then he started buying in Somerville, and now he's buying heavy in Boston, and now he's developing in Boston. But he had to get in where you fit in, and start to snowball that.
Right, and so a lot of times, like I said, we have champagne tastes and beer pockets, but also, when you guys are talking about condos and townhouses, people also have to factor in that there are HOA, homeowners association fees, and a lot of times people forget about that. That is something that's going to be with you, so you have to factor that into your budget as well, and see, because I'm looking at some of these properties. I get the listing from you, and I'm looking at the HOAs. They're like $1,000 a month. Some of them, on average, they're $300-400 a month. So
but on affordable housing units, Larry, the homeowners association fee is also smaller.
Oh, it
They
is.
also-
So it's
yeah,
different for.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
And also, that's the reason why we set the debt ratio, like, for example, 45%, because, in order to provide for the rest of the expenses for the household. So that's.
So I want to talk about interest rates, because that seems to be the folks are now wondering, do I wait? Because early on there was a rumor that the Feds would probably make 2 or 3 rate cuts this year.
for the rest
Now
of
it
the
looks
year.
like they're pumping the brakes. That may not happen. But I bought my first home in the 80s, back during the dinosaur era. It was 10%, and that seemed like high. And the rates still aren't gotten. So we historically the rates are still low. We got spoiled with the 2 and 3, 4%.
Yes.
That 7 and 8% seems like extremely high. But I guess too, when you factor in the cost of homes have increased dramatically. One of the homes I bought brand new, and I thought I'd never get my money back in Boston. It was $135,000. I'm like, I'll never recover from this. And now
it's like 10 times.
I'm renting it. It's one of the best investments I made.
Right.
But what do you say to people who are on the fence about because of interest rates? Yeah.
Can I borrow one of her lines?
Sure.
What is it? Marry the house, date the rate.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yes, because rates can come down.
Yeah.
And it will. There is a big possibility of rates coming down.
Yeah.
So, but the housing will always go up.
Yeah.
Well,
There's still a lot of room to
Appreciation and-
increase.
Room for appreciation.
my big line is 10 years from now, everyone's a genius when you buy real estate. he bought it 10 years ago. Genius. Look at this guy. Genius. You buy real estate, hold it for 10
It's
years, you become a genius.
Yeah, because every day, every month that you pay the mortgage,
Right.
your balance goes down. But then the
Right.
value of the house
The house goes up,
appreciates.
Right.
Yeah.
So for our caller, because like I said, I think a lot of people are still hesitant. Like they're waiting and waiting, and those who waited 4 years ago when you guys were first talking about this missed that boat,
Yeah.
right? That they would have been ahead of the game. They would have been in that heading towards genius status, right?
Everyone in your family, like, he's a genius. He bought real estate.
Right.
So that's it.
Yeah. So, you have any other questions for them? Or Kyle?
That's a perfect one.
Dick, are you still there?
Some
said that to me.
Sometimes it's it could be like a small condo. There's $200,000 condos out there.
And they're like
300.
it's 500 square
Yeah,
feet.
Start small, like he said.
Larry, it's just taking a step backward to make that 2 steps forward.
No, you're right. I mean, look, some of these, I look at these, I get these listings, and they're in the more affluent areas, even in Boston, and they're like 1.6 million for 900 square feet, and I'm like, I have to go outside to change my mind. The place is so small, and it's I'm like just amazed at how the properties have appreciated.
And there's different levels, but before you get to that point again, just getting at the
Right.
at that just getting in,
Right.
just so you can ride that, because we just talked about interest rates. Interest rates is not like it's going to go down, just mainly because of how much money they're printing,
Right.
and it's all the indicators show that interest rates is either going to flatten or go up.
Right.
And so inventory right now is actually it's getting better because people are getting used to the new normal of the interest rates.
Yeah.
But if anything, they're going to go up just because of the amount of money they're printing.
And to your point,
sent a couple.
Correct me if I'm wrong. We'll never see 2% and 3% interest rates for quite some time, unless we have another pandemic.
No.
But I mean, that's really
That's a black swan.
Yeah.
They retired the entire country. The entire world was retired for a little bit. You know what I mean?
Right.
Unless you was essential,
Right.
they started. And even when you're essential, they started sending out checks. So that's. I mean, if we're going to retire the rest of the world again,
Right.
that's what you're kind of banking on to get
I
those rates.
think we're past that.
Right.
Yeah,
I think we're
that's
past
not,
that.
Right.
That's not
So-
likely.
Yeah.
Carl, did you have any other questions or comments? Do we lose Dick? But I guess we did.
Hopefully, answer this question.
Yeah. Okay. So again, like I said, it's a lot to take in. I know when I bought my first home, I guess because I was 19, didn't know what I was doing, so I guess I wasn't as fearful
Right.
as you are when you get older and
Sometimes you know too much.
right, exactly. I didn't understand what capital gains, those terms. A lot of the terms I'm hearing you guys speak on, and so I think it's the unknownness. This is why I think important folks, like I said, they're going to be putting on another home buyers workshop, down payment assistance and credit solutions, Saturday, May 11, 2024, from 12:30 to 3 p.m. at the Boston Public Library at 690 Adams Street. It's right down the street from here. Boston Mass said give Sam a call if you want to register with him. You can give him a call at 617-775-3074. Sam Cora will be there along with the other crew members they bring in. Like I said, they bring in some of the support system, the folks who are helping with mass housing. I know was at some of these, helping with the financial assistance. And I saw, because I was at one of your workshops, and I saw as you guys were explaining how people's attention, it just started, because now they were getting a better understanding. They came in there really as novelists and not knowing, because a lot of times it's what you don't know is what's the problem, and you tend not to take any action.
And it's also about who you know. So
Right.
so you come to a workshop like this, you get connected. We bring attorneys in so you understand the legal process. We bring specialists, 1031 for investors, 1031.
But you also bring relationships. This is the relationship. We've been partnering with you guys for quite some time. So I think there's a credibility with MAMLEO in bringing people in who we know are going to do right by our listeners, and that's important as well.
Right, 100%. 100%. When you're referred into by someone that you trust, it's good, especially when you're entering a field like, again, the fear of the unknown is really stifling to a lot of people, and they're losing a lot of opportunity because of the unknown. When it's really just, you really have to lean on the people you trust to say, hey, you know, use this agent or talk to this this particular specialist, and understand that the reason why they're referring them to you is because they have that experience, like we have with MAMLEO. We have that relationship. So referring them over, and I'm going to educate my clients in the whole process. And sometimes it comes like, hey, you have to trust me on this.
Right. No, absolutely. I when people talk about, I send them to Cora. Right. They look at, when they talk about finance, it's a real estate. Hey, give my friend. The other day, someone was asking me about financials. I called him. I was having lunch with him. I said, hey, we'll call him now, because we also have to build, because I trust, because a lot of times we walk into a building, or we call up, we go through the phone book. We don't know those people, and they're all there to make a buck. And you guys, this is your business, but it's also, we know that you're going to give them the humanity, and that's important, that they're going to be comfortable. Like, it's not some scam of somebody, and you guys have been in the business for quite some time. You're not novelists at this. So they're getting those years of experience, which is important, especially when you're making a purchase of a home. Is probably the largest investment most people will ever make, unless you're buying an airplane, but most people, home ownership, sadly, a lot of folks have purchased cars. And I tell people sometimes, like, you're spending $90,000-$100,000 on a car that's depreciating in value, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And I've been fortunate, not one property, as you said, if they had bought 4 years ago, a car 4 years ago, it's not worth a third of what they paid for it. If they bought a home 4 years ago, it has increased in value.
Yes. Cars depreciate in value.
Right, considerably.
Yeah. And if they're planning to purchase a home, they should just stay, if they really need to buy a car, just get the second hand.
I drive a 2005 F-150 because I know cars are not an investment. They just,
it's not. There's a book, Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki.
Great book, one of the first ones I've ever read.
And it's like understanding what an asset is.
Yes.
It's like
versus a liability.
Versus a liability.
Right.
I know it sounds basic, but you have to educate yourself. You have to understand the difference. And people think, I'm invested in my shoe collection or my watch. Unless it's a Rolex and my watch collection. Like, no, those are not assets.
And those are luxuries if you've gotten other things in order and you have some disposable cash. Like I said, I always felt better when I was going out and purchasing something, and after my tenants had paid, I'm like, well, realistically, I'm not paying for this. Mm-hmm. Somebody else, the income from that. I felt better when I spent it rather than my working, going and staying out doing a road detail for 8 hours, and my back is sore and I'm dusty, and I don't want to spend that on something frivolous.
Right. Ideally, you're taking your ordinary income and you're buying assets that's going to pay you and help you retire, right? Mm-hmm. And so I always recommend clients buy a multifamily for your first 2 to 3 properties. Like, buy your first one, buy another one, 2 to 3 years after that, if you can, and then one more, and then buy your single family, and then buy the condo you want. Because, like you said, that is the income from those properties will pay
for the other ones.
Can you explain to people who is a first-time home buyer? Because I think also there's some misconception that if you already own a home, you don't no longer qualify for a first-time home buyer.
Yeah.
Well, actually, first-time home buyers is supposed to be anybody who has not owned a home, or who has owned a home 3 years ago but they gave it up. Now, they can be a second-time home buyer, but they can still qualify for. They will not be able to qualify for affordable housing units or the down payment assistance, but they can still qualify for the for the program of the Home Possible 3% down payment. They can still qualify for that if they're going to move into the unit. Well, there's a lot of reasons why you want to move away from what you already have So there's still an opportunity to purchase another home,
Right.
with a low down payment.
Yeah, right. So if you bought a home and then you sold it, 3 years have passed, you can actually use it again. There's a lot of opportunities. And I wanted to kind of backtrack what you said about we're talking about people already owning. Another thing is what I found is maybe they have already bought that condo and that second time homeowner,
Yes.
or they bought the single and now they're like, wow, either the payments are high or they're ready to become an investor. Selling that first property and buying a investment with those proceeds is actually a really good move.
Or they can take the equity and use the equity for the next down payment.
Right. They could do a cash out refi or something like that.
Yes.
But if you have
Well, home equity nowadays is more viable because of the interest rate. Because if they refinance the current home, the interest rate is much higher.
But now with the new tax changes, the equity is no longer deductible, and the interest is no longer deductible.
Yes, but it's okay because they can use that equity and purchase a home. Then the new home
pays for it.
Yes.
No. But see, you guys are giving them solutions as part of it. This is why I love when you guys come on, because there is so many other ways to skin a cat, right?
Right. Right.
And speaking of, let's talk a little bit about the 1031 exchange for folks who they hear that out there. What is the 1031 exchange for our listening audience?
Right. So basically, it's a method. It's a method to defer your taxes on your gains, on your capital gains, so you don't have to pay taxes on them for more investment. So it was invented in the early 1900s, and has made some reiterations, but it's been in the books for a long time. So it's not like anything new, but it's a way that the wealthy's they've been using this.
Yeah,
to
no one told me when I
retain their
bought my first home and the capital gains was a lot higher. Had I known about 1031 exchange,
If you sell,
I wouldn't have had to give that money away.
Right. We had one woman that came to one of my workshops. She was like, "Yeah, I just sold 6 houses." I'm like, "Oh, great! You must have made out really well in your 1031." And she's like, "What's a 1031?" I'm like, "Wow!" Wow! No one explained to you what a 1031 exchange was. And so she paid taxes. She sold it and she just paid up the taxes, and see it as an interest-free loan that is not even payable when you pass and your heirs inherit it. It just steps up to the new basis, and so it's just like an interest-free loan for the government to build your wealth for your family. Mm-hmm. So a 1031 exchange, basically, you just defer the taxes. So an example would be on investment, not on your primary residence, but say the residence that you're not living in. Mm-hmm. When you sell that property, the government wants their money on
you will be taxed on the capital gains.
Right. So if you bought it for $250 and you sold it for $500, that's $250,000 in profit in capital gains. So the government wants their 30%, 40%, whatever your bracket is.
Yes.
So what this allows is foregoing paying that. So in that example of $250,000, 40%, you're looking at $100,000 that you don't need to pay the government right now.
Right.
So you can take that $100,000 to give it to Uncle Sam, buy another property with it.
Right.
Buy another property.
So
with
they
it.
weren't there
so
for
what
any
the
of the plumbing
1031
problems.
exchange does is that 100,000 equity that they will be gaining from the sale of the house, they put it in an escrow account, which is the 1031 through a 1031 exchange agent, and then you don't. That's why, and then you use that to purchase another.
Right, so you're limited to what you can use it for. You can't go out and buy that new car.
It should
with
be
it. Right. It has to be.
Like kind
exchange. Right. That's what they call. Right.
Yeah,
that's
so
a more familiar term.
Again, it might get a little like I guess detailed. Like I don't want to get we don't have to go too much into the weeds on that. But again, finding the people to partner with to walk you through that process is ideal method. But so the one of the big rules is they said you really can't touch the money. They don't want when the property is sold, the investment property is sold, they want it to go to a qualified intermediary that they will take the money and they hold it in their escrow until you find a replacement property.
Now the question, because some people are probably asking, and I know the answer, is that let's use that $250,000 profit that you talk about, the like kind exchange. Do you have to put the whole thing in there? Or can you put, or is it just a percentage of what the government would get?
So 100% of the capital gain. So all of the money needs to go. You can't touch any of it. Okay. Whatever you touch is considered what they call it a boot, and that will be taxed at that 40%.
So you can pull some out. You just have to pay taxes on that percentage.
Whatever
that you
took out and used for something else.
So,
Okay.
so if you had,
But there's a limit on the holding period.
Mm-hmm.
It only lasts for 6 months. Go ahead, Sam.
right. So once you sell the property, they give you 45 days to identify the property,
Right.
and then you have 180 days to close on the property. So I have one client who just sold their house here in Dorchester, actually, and they're going to actually build. And so the problem is that builder has to build it within 6 months, right? Because they need to take possession of the property in order to qualify for the exchange. So again, and they give you 180 days to actually close on it. So
Right.
you know that's not a long time, especially considering
Right.
the bigger transactions.
So the other thing is that if you live in a home and you sell it your primary residence and you make a capital gain, you do have to. But there is
protected.
right. There's a $250,000 exemption, and if you're married, each person gets $250,000. So a lot of people aren't familiar that there are some benefits to being married.
hold on now.
I don't know if it outweighs it, right?
Hold on. My wife's listening to this right now. I gotta go home and eat.
I'll just tell you that there's a man by Resident Agent Orange who uses all the benefits of marriage,
Right.
So
even in death.
Right.
I mean, there's real estate investors that use that exact the fact that you are protected for that 500,000. They call it like live-in flips, where they live in the property. They're protected for 500,000,
Yes.
250,
Yes.
and they'll live in the property, renovate the property, sell it within 2 to 3 years, and every 2 to 3 years they're doing the same thing. That's their job, is to find property that needs to be.
I believe like the home and garden shows or TV reality TV stars that do that, and that's all they do.
That's all they do. They live their life. They vacation all year, and then but they sell every 3 years with a new home.
Yeah.
So, Cora, I want to flip to you for a question. So, where are we at? I know it fluctuates depending on which mortgage company or which bank, but what's the going rate estimate on mortgage interest rates today?
Well, actually, we're in the mid sevens,
Okay.
but there are opportunities to bring
Is that
down the
7
rate.
if you have good credit? Because it's
It's average credit like 660, 680.
Okay.
Yeah, so below that, low credit, high interest. High credit, low interest. That's why it's very important that they plan ahead when they're buying a home to make sure that the credit is okay, and they're not having collection
Right.
accounts.
So I want you to take out your crystal ball and give us a forecast on where you think interest rates. You think is going to flatline, or you think we're
No, I think the
going-
Feds will honor the three cuts.
Okay.
I think the Feds will honor that.
Well, when do you think we might see? I know they're meeting in a couple of months.
Yeah, we're probably looking in the sixes,
Okay.
and then so depending on how the market performs, I think we are looking into at least 6%.
But people always think though when the Feds cut that somehow that there's an immediate effect from mortgage.
No. Well, yeah, when the Fed cuts affect the prime rate,
Right.
and this affects the lending rate of the banks internally. So they lend, but somehow there is a domino effect, and it affects because the interest rate is tied into the mortgage bonds that gets affected by the market when and especially if stocks are moving, then the rates are also competing with that.
Are you guys seeing people now? Because usually, historically, spring this time of the year, people start looking and kind of hunker down for the winter unless they absolutely have to buy. People don't want to be out.
Yeah.
But are you starting to see it open up?
Yes.
People buying.
Yes.
I mean, you said there's more in supply now, or are you seeing more people looking for mortgages?
Well, as
even
the
at
interest
these
rates go down,
you'll
construction will start to rise. Yes.
Well, interest rates probably aren't going down, but what we are seeing is people the normalization of the interest rates of like people like, okay, this is the new normal, and so they're more comfortable. Remember, housing is a need. It's not
right. It's right, but also because I think even last time you guys were on, people were paying above asking price. Are you seeing as much of that? Now, wow! I thought
it's a supply and demand.
Okay,
right? And so right now, I think we clocked for last month is the fourth lowest supply for March
Oh, wow.
since the
Is that just in
since
Boston
we
or
track-
the state? Are you tracking?
for Massachusetts.
Oh, wow.
So since we started tracking, so since the realtor organization started tracking, so inventory is still low, but at the same time, people you still have to.
He says it's a need.
It's a need.
It's a need. It's not a want. It's not a desire. It's a need.
It's a need.
And one of the things I'd like to say is, like, as far as an investment goes, people like stocks, bonds, all these things and stuff like that. This is the only investment you actually practically live in. Okay,
There's a lot more utility to
Well,
to
some of them live in their cars, not by choice.
Yeah, but
it's not legal. Okay?
yeah, but like what Sam said earlier, just widen your fishing ground.
Yeah.
You know, when you are looking, and chances are you'll find something. And I have not seen anyone who have persistently looked and have not found.
No.
You just have to have the perseverance, the persistence to go and look.
And also, you have to be realistic about, like I said, we used to be Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous, Robin Leach, Champagne Taste, Caviar.
Yeah.
But we all, we go and when you go look at a model house, that's the whole purpose, to get you hooked. Like, it's like a drug.
Yes.
You want everything in there. And you think, then they go show you the one that you can get, and it's it's stripped down, right? It's like the car.
Right.
We want all the bells and whistles.
Yes.
So people also have to be realistic about what.
I like what Sam said. Get in to where you fit in. I like that.
Right. Yeah.
Get in
Well,
where you fit.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's like I said.
You gotta
Those suits you had 10 years ago, you can't fit in them.
No, you got to start with exactly. You got to start somewhere.
Unless you're past the Hobbs here, he still has all his.
Yeah, I know.
He's a shot.
He's the same as
He's a shot. The shot. That's he's excluded from this.
Right, and I think another big thing, as far as I want to get in where you fit in, is really it's a lot of mindset.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people, the reason why they say that housing's unaffordable, but their lifestyle makes it kind of hard to do so. I know some people that
they don't want to cut back on anything.
Exactly.
Well, what I always tell my client, just tighten the belt.
Yeah.
Just tighten the belt.
When you are going to buy a house.
Right. It's like it's really sitting down and making that home ownership that goal.
Yeah.
And when you sit down and say that is the goal, you cut back on the Starbucks.
Right.
You cut back on the
People have. I just heard that people aren't buying Starbucks. It's got so expensive. Yeah,
I mean, $7 for a coffee.
Yeah.
Right?
And people don't really. Sam, it's funny you say that, and I apologize for interrupting you, because I was giving some advice a few years ago to one of my coworkers. I want to buy a house, and I noticed every day he came in with this. I don't know how they categorize, because I don't shop. I don't drink coffee from Starbucks. I drink
venti, whatever.
And I said to him, because he was saying he wants to buy a house. I said, and he said, and he goes to Starbucks, and he goes to Dunkin' Donuts. I said, you're probably spending about $20 a day, and that may not seem like a much, right? I said, but you can go and get the K cups, or you can go get regular coffee, which is even cheaper, because the K cups are more expensive. I said, how much? Just add up how much you spend a month.
Yes.
Just on Dunkin' Donuts and Starbucks, right? And I gave him I went online and I printed out. There's a form that you can print out with your expenses. And he said, Larry, I did it. He said, I was scared to look at it. He said, I couldn't believe how much a year I was spending just on coffee. And he said, even got my wife to stop smoking, right? And that itself, he said, within 2 years, we'll have a down payment.
Yeah. It's amazing. It doesn't even take too much of an adjustment. The thing is, like, I speak to a lot of people, like, they say they want the house, but the actions that they're doing, it does not line.
Counter.
It's counter.
Yeah.
Like, what I'm not gonna. They probably know if they're listening. They know who they are. It's just like they had their kid's birthday on a cruise line. On a cruise line, but they want to buy a house. So they're renting, but you having everyone to come. I'm like, no, listen, I can't make it.
I used to walk to work, and some of my friends would laugh at me because they had cars and they were eating at Legals, and I'm like, yeah, okay, and I'm laughing all the way to the bank after, because I knew that I wanted to buy this house. I couldn't do both. Right. If I had a car at that age, the insurance was going to be through the roof, and the money that I would have had to spend on it, right? So I was like, I took advantage. I was living at home. I took advantage. I gave my mom a rent, but it enabled me, right? And a lot of them say, man, I wish I had listened, because when you're young, you figure you got all the time in the world.
It's all mindset.
Yes.
This whole thing is all mindset.
But Sam, before we go, because man, you guys come here, the hour goes. there's been some dramatic changes in the percentages of brokers. How's that new formula working now? You can explain to people. Like,
we're talking about the new that lawsuit.
The NAR.
Yes.
NAR.
Because like before, it was almost like you had no choice. You know, there was a 5% or whatever.
So
and this affects the buyers actually.
Right.
So it's best to explain.
Yeah, I'll talk about it, and I'll let you know, from my opinion, who's affected the most by this ruling. So basically,
he's in the too. He's looking good.
So basically, historically, what it was, the listing agent will negotiate the broker's fee for both the listing agent and the buyer's agent. So let's say there is no average, but let's say it's 5%, right? Mm-hmm. And so the listing agent will say, all right, I'm going to take 2.5, and whoever brings me the buyer, I'll give them
3. Or 3.5.
2.5.
Oh, 2.5.
Oh,
so you said 5%.
It's
thinking
6. 5%. So whatever it is, like there is no average. There is no normal. It's whatever is negotiated with your agent. But let's say in this case, with 5%. So what's going on now? There was a lawsuit that said, hey, I don't want to pay. I should have the option whether I pay for the buyer's agent's commission, because that person doesn't represent me, basically, is what they're saying, is I shouldn't have to pay for the buyer's representation, right? And so what's happening now is during the, when you list your property, it's always been the case, I feel, you can negotiate what you like, but it's just not, I guess the lawsuit was saying that it was standard. So, but either way, so you have the option. You can say, I'm not going to pay for the seller, I'm not going to pay the buyer's agent the 2.5%, or I'm going to give them $10,000 towards the commission, or some kind of concession. So basically, they just open up the conversation for more negotiations for on the seller side, which has always been there, honestly. If you wanted to not pay the buyer's agent, you can absolutely do that. It's just not gonna. If it's just as a buyer's agent, if I see 1% or 0.5% as offering to help me. For my commission versus 2.5% or 3%.
I'm not bringing you.
I'm not gonna really
no incentive.
You're not gonna really know. There's no incentive. You're not paying me. So, but what's happening now is basically the big change. Is basically gonna say is with buyers agents are now gonna have to sign agreements with their buyers. I was trained that way, and I've been doing it from the beginning, so it doesn't really affect me. Mm-hmm. But if there is buyers agents that were taking people out without agreements, that's going to stop now, right? Because in order for you to get compensated, you need to have a pretty much like the buyer's equivalent of a listing agreement, saying how much your commission is. Has to be flat out exactly how much that's going to be, whether it's 2%, 2.5%, 3%, whatever you charge, and that agreement is with the buyer now. And so when you put in an offer to buy a home, you're going to put in your offer, hey, you Mr. Seller, please compensate my buyer's agent for 2.5%. Or some kind of concession towards it.
Wow, folks. That's quite a bit. We have complete run out of time. So again,
sorry.
No. The Home Buyer Down Payment Assistance and Credit Solutions Seminar Workshop is next Saturday, May 11, 2024, from 12:30 to 3 p.m. at the Boston Public Library, 690 Adams Street, Boston, Mass. And two of the stars, Cora Holbrook from the Money Store, and you can reach her at 508-345-4726, and Samuel Reimer from KR Realtors in Boston at 617-775-3074. That's 617-775-3074.
And I wasn't able to tell you my opinion on who it affects the most. Come to the seminar and I'll tell you.
Absolutely. Listen, it would be, if you guys could call in during our 8 o'clock hour, I know you're going to be getting ready for this, and then we would be more than happy to promote it a little bit, getting folks down there next Saturday morning.
During the seminar, they will also have the opportunity to know about budgeting. We have a budget sheet.
I'll bring my wife.
Well, you're going to be in trouble after this. I'll tell you.
I just gave you the sheet, Larry.
I'm not coming on you.
Samuel Ryder, Cora Holbrook, thank you both. Like I said, Cora is our sponsor, so we always have to have her, make room for her. Thank you so much for
Thank you, Larry.
at
Thank
the
you.
round table. Like I said, we look forward to again, folks. Again, the workshop is Saturday, May 11, 2012, from 12:30 to 3 at the Boston Public Library, 690 Adams Street, Boston. Good thing you guys didn't do this. The closed streets is tomorrow.
We're going
so-
to do it every month.
No,
like
I'm
that.
saying they're closing down the streets
Oh, yeah.
tomorrow. That would have been an issue if it had been a
690.
Saturday.
Yeah.
You'd have been in trouble because City of Open Streets is tomorrow. So, again, thank you, folks. Appreciate it. Folks, you've been listening to At the Round Table with MAMLEO.
Thank you so
Take
much.
a break. We'll be right back.
Thank you.
Have a beautiful day, everyone.
Yes, absolutely.
Cause I still believe that anything is possible as long as you work hard. Hustle real hard, hustle real hard, hustle real hard, hustle. So if I never see ya, never get the chance to meet ya, know I came up from the